This week on RSBANDB Update, Shooting Stars get a revamp and we discuss XP, the new reward shop, trim requirements, and who this update is for. Also, Primal Arrow Fletching is rebalanced, and Cerberus loses Slayer XP. Then we check in with the Misthalin Milk Maids for a group Iron Man update. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 1017, recorded Thursday, December 19th, 2024. Star-studded trim. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of RSBANDB Update. Tanis, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Shane.
Always good to have you here, and the last regularly scheduled update show of the year with content and another group Iron Man profile. This week we have two members of the Misthalin Milk Maids joining us. We have Lemon.
Hello.
Lemon, who you might remember on the podcast from past episodes, including Jagex's last year's financial review and the Sanctum of Rebirth. We also have another of Lemon's teammates here, Z-Score. Welcome, Z.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Welcome to the podcast. And we were going through exactly what part of the Misthalin Milk Maids you were, and your name there is Lactate. How did you wind up with that?
I have a relatively nerdy main. Actually, my main character's name's De Morgan after a computer science law. It's about contrapositives canceling out.
Oh, neat.
And then my iron is Z-Score. And so I'm like, I got to keep the theme going of nerdy. I was going to do the chemical compound for lactose, but I'm like, there's no way if I write it down, it's like C6H something. I'm like, there's no way people know what that is. So my next best thing was like, if I don't do lactose, I'll try to do lactate the drug. I tried it without the dash. Did not work, but it did work with a dash, and so that's what I stuck with.
Right on, and you also do have a bit of experience PVM Telos-wise across the game as well. That nearly sent you up the wall at one point, based on what we were discussing, right?
Yeah. So this was maybe a year ago. I was pushing Telos to 4K. Eventually got it, and then wanted to get the 200 kill streak. So I had the screenshot and the PVME feat. And so it's roughly a 10-12 hour grind. I did it all in one sitting, got to 192 kills, and then died and didn't have a dart in my inventory. So I lost the streak. I think I had 3 Saren Godbows in that chest, so I lost 2 of them. Very, very sad.
And I bet they were around max cash at that time, right?
I think it was it was about $1 bill per bow. So I think the whole chest, I lost like $2 bill in that chest. So not a good moment. I then restarted and did the whole grind again the next day. And then got it within that week. So I had the screenshot. Now I have the 200 kill streak.
And then from there, you wind up being a part of the Iron Group, Misthalin Milk Maids. What a name! What a name! We'll get into exactly what the Misthalin Milk Maids is about a little bit later in the podcast. But of course, this week we have Shooting Stars. We have a bit of Christmas news, in particular with patch notes and new tradable rares that have been added. But of course, in the meantime, I want to give a big, huge thank you to our experienced tier Patreon members who make RSBANDB Update go. And this week, that's Amos Reed, Andrew C., Bladecom, Dominic R., Drama Free, Hair A., Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Mr. T., Ricky A., Runestar, The Naked Captain, and Tim. Big, huge thank you to everybody. And you'll hear a little bit more about our Patreon offerings a bit later in the show. But if you want to follow along, we do have the show notes available over at update.show. We also have a community Discord over at update.show/Discord, and the friends chat can be found in-game at BitsBytes. Alrighty. How do we feel about Shooting Stars? I feel like, we have a D&D that sometimes we think doesn't exist, but it definitely exists this week. Lukewarm, Hot, good, we like, we don't like, where are we at? Somebody take us away.
No
If
strong
you're-
feelings on the matter.
Okay.
Nothing interesting happens.
Nothing
No,
interesting happens.
It's kind of one of those things. Like, I can remember, like, back in the day when, especially in clan chat, you used to hear, star shoutouts and stuff, and then you don't really hear them that much anymore. I mean, you hear the one random person be like, Star World, and you're like, okay, hold on, I'll be right there. But and then you can't help but think it's just one lonely person, just pickaxe. But no, this week it's better.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. And what this is, I think, really doing is that it's being framed as a modernization of the D&D, and I think there was maybe some expectation mismatch in terms of what people were thinking specifically when they look at what the stars do on the old school side. But the way the news post sums it up, there's more variety now in star locations, rebalanced mining XP, streamlined process to improve both the solo and group mining, public and portable telescopes for easier tracking, and ease of access with new teleports specifically on the gemstone golem mining outfit. So let's start with the XP on this then. And when we land with the shooting star, you can do 3 of them a day, so it's not going to be something you can necessarily trade mining with, right?
No, not consistently.
No. And we did some testing around, trying to figure out where these things land. And the general consensus that we have been able to come up with, and be curious to know, Lemon and Z, if you guys agree with this, is that the tier 4 ones are about on par with what you would expect for the Prif Saren stones. But beyond that, there's really not much to them XP-wise. And with the 3 times a day, it's not going to be that main method of mining training. And I think you're there really for the auxiliary benefits, as I'll call them.
Yeah. Porter, C-score. You were saying on day of release that you did a little bit of testing. You said for XP, you're probably looking at just doing the first couple layers and then dipping.
Yeah, so I think roughly I was getting around 140k XP, not like using any buffs or double XP, 140k XP flat over the 45 minutes. But the way that the XP scaling works, the first layer I was getting 900 XP every single swing, and at the very, very end I was getting 9 XP every swing. So it felt like around, I think the first layer was 900, the second was like 480, and it keeps going lower and lower. So around the second or third layer that you've mined, you're better off just leaving. If you care about XP, just leave, go somewhere else, and if you want the buff, come back when you think the star will be finished.
That's
Which is probably not how they want you to do it. That feels like you're taking you out of the mini game.
Right. And see, that's the thing, is that if you're really looking for XP, why don't you just stay somewhere else where you can get, a decent mining XP, right? So
exactly. Especially when they already have a certain rock that you can just click on once every 20 minutes that gives relatively comparable rates, and I don't need to plan my day around when and where it lands.
You're referring to the Saren stones, right?
Yeah.
And then it really then, I think, just does come down to the Stardust and everything that comes with it.
My trim cape is hurting, or it will be hurting in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, January 5th grace period on that. I have to say it. The most people I see mining these stars are the people who are wanting to maintain their trim in this period, and I wonder if we're going back to the activity level they were at beforehand after that's done.
Probably.
It will be interesting to see what happens to callouts, because if all of the trimmers stop doing it, then, if people aren't calling it out, then does the FC die? And then do people stop using it? And then it really just becomes if you need it for that pickaxe upgrade, you're going to go out of your way like you did in the past to find it. But otherwise, how much effort are you going to put in to find, the tier 10 star that's fresh?
Yeah, and I think that's why they also, reward-wise have the telescopes and whatnot, because those telescopes, the higher tier ones, do let you get that narrow window and figure out what the exact size is going to be and if it's going to drop on your world. Now, it's obviously a lot better when you have an entire friends chat and Discord community hunting for that for you. But, I mean, at least if it does slow down, you will be able to find them a bit easier than you used to, I guess, with that. And I want to underscore here that I think when we look at this from a purely mechanical, technical, gameplay, and graphics point of view, I mean, the update ticks all the boxes and does what it's supposed to do, right? I think the thing that people like us at the end game, on one account or another, are struggling with is, what is this content for beyond the trim requirement, right?
Yeah,
For
definitely. It feels like it's definitely been modernized, but it doesn't feel like it has a strong, compelling reason to do it. Which is unfortunate. I think.
Yeah, it really is.
One thing that I think is just really weird from like a D&D identity perspective is that, like a full tier 10 star takes like 45 minutes or something to mine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which seems like a really big investment of time for a D&D.
Right, and you can do 3 of these a day, and if you have the reset tokens, you can do 3 more a day, which, Z, you were talking about this before we began. You were questioning if you'd have the sanity to do that.
That's just too long to just sit there watching the star with your 1,500 closest friends, all wondering how many more Stardust you need to buy out the shop.
And I just heard the pin drop and, the realization that for endgame players, that's what this update is. And it doesn't necessarily feel the best, but I feel like maybe if you're an up-and-coming player, this is something you can hunt down for an infusion of mining XP. But I know even on my group Iron at about 80 mining is that I have better ways of training mining, and I am at the point where I don't think even I would hunt out that XP on those top few layers for this, just with the amount of effort it takes. So,
yeah, and I think one thing that's like, I understand why it's like this from like a gameplay and rewards perspective, but you start out and you only get a 15-minute buff when you do it, and you can unlock, I think it's 30 and then an hour.
Yeah.
And I feel like if the hour-long buff was available from the get-go, I might be more inclined to do it at a lower level. But having to I don't know how much Stardust it is, but having to spend however long doing the stars in order to be able to get the reason that you would want to do it in the first place, just it's not compelling.
It's 9,000 Stardust to get the 3 mining
Stardust
upgrades. Yeah.
This reminds me when they tried to make minigames cool and they added dollar in the shop, right? It really didn't do anything to fix any of the underlying stuff, which was minigames kind of suck. But it gave it a little bit more glossy.
It gave it a shot in the arm, and it basically made minigames only be played when they were on Spotlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is making us only played for Triumph. But same thing.
And we need to be 100% clear that there might be a use case for the low and mid levels for this, for people who haven't, shot past that on their group Iron Man, or, don't have accounts that are hunting common trim. And, you can get the Star Sprite pet for 10,000 Stardust. That's another reward that's there. You have a Stargazer title for 3,000 dust. You have teleports that you can get that are one-time use to the Shooting Star for 350 Stardust in addition to the daily. You can buy Cosmic and Astral Runes for 8 and 15 Stardust respectively, and Gold Stone Spirits for 50 Stardust.
Yeah. Doesn't
Not
Say
seem-
sold.
law and astral.
Yeah, cosmic and astral.
Oh, cosmic and
Yeah.
astral. Now, if you had told me law runes, I'd be like, okay. I need to figure that out. I just thought about that today. I'm like,
Yeah, well, shops have that. But the one I wanted to specifically highlight was a bundle of gems, in that I got 6 gems for 400 Stardust. It was an opal,
Oh my god.
2 sapphires, 2 emeralds, and 1 ruby.
only the best then for you.
That seems like that needs a pretty considerable buff.
That's 20
I mean, it's-
minutes probably that you just spent to get 6 gems.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like a little bit of gravy on top, but like still, that's like a.
And I
like
mean,
a
it's an
symbol of-
opal that you
of
could
gravy.
crush, theoretically.
It would also take you like 30 seconds to get all that from General. Oh,
And
I will say
there.
there.
Like, I was
Sorry,
sitting
go
here,
ahead.
yeah, I was sitting here thinking this might be an interesting way to bring some extra gems in on the group iron character.
Yeah,
And
I
that
mean,
it would
early
be like
early
half an
crafting is such a
inventory
struggle.
or something. But I'll just go sit at the gem rocks for, like you said, a minute, and there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you guys going for in the reward shop? I'm personally going for the Stargazer title and probably the 3 telescopes over time.
I mean, I'm going for nothing,
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
quite frankly.
Kind of where I'm at, yeah.
Gotta buy everything. It doesn't matter what order I do it in.
You being facetious, or is that for real?
No, spot the
buy
person
it.
with the trim cape.
I have to buy it all for trim, so I don't.
Oh, you have to buy the entire shop out for trim.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's all of this dust, and you're thinking how long it takes. Yeah, this will be my next few weeks.
Okay, I didn't know it was necessarily that bad. I thought it was.
That's why people complain at the start, because it's they know what it's going to be for them to get this shop bought out.
Well, are you doing this over the holiday break then?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, at least it's a mobile-friendly activity if that's something you play with.
It's certainly, yeah. While I'm trying to avoid my parents asking me tough questions, I can just knock out some Stardust.
'Tis the season.
Yeah, the classic RuneScape holiday endeavors, isn't it? So, okay. How do we feel about these sorts of trim grinds on older pieces of content like this? I didn't necessarily know that you were going to be going for this here, and it's good that you're on the show, but how do you feel when you have this, piece of content that is a decade or more old, and then it just gets thrown with a trim requirement on it?
Yeah, it feels like they just spent a bunch of time to then make me spend a bunch of time. I don't really understand. It also feels a little bit surprising because, when I woke up Monday morning, I did not know I had this waiting for me. For, all of the 110 skills and 120 skills, we have months and months of notice that we have to do this grind. Or we get a pop-up like the profaned Scarabs, where, it's, okay, sure, this popped up, but I can just get this in an hour or two. But to know that I have to spend, what's the math on it? It's like 26 hours or so.
Yeah, one of our people
to get
did the numbers and came out to 24.67 hours.
Yeah, that's just a lot to not realize I have to do it, and I don't know why we're doing it. So it kind of hurts, but at the end of the day, I want the particles. I'm going to get it, and I'll probably just complain the whole way.
I mean, this is the exact kind of thing where I'm like, I'm never going to comp and I'm never going to trim because, like, why would I waste my
That's
time?
a great attitude to have. Be damned with the. Do you have a list of dailies? Do you do dailies or do you not do that either?
Oh, no, those I have to do.
Okay. Because that's the same thing I always tell people is that, if you're on this push and you're going for comp, you're going for trim, but it makes it feel like you're going to burn out, don't do it. And then, people complain about dailyscape, and I tell them the exact same thing. So that's why I had to ask that question there.
Yeah, I keep my dailies to a minimum, just the highest return stuff.
Yeah, of course.
See, I don't do anything daily because I don't want them getting used to me and everything. They can't
On the main or the GIM?
Well, both actually.
Oh,
I know. I really should be doing dailies on the GIMP, but
Hey, play how you want to play.
yeah, it didn't translate. It didn't follow me over. I thought it would make me
But
good.
yeah, and see, I'm normally like that too. But on the group Iron Man, I have to do Jack of Trades daily for Herblore. I have to. I have to. So,
Viswax.
yeah.
Yep.
It's just so many. And that goes back to Janice, a topic we haven't talked about in a long time. But maybe they're back. Maybe the Cambridge mob is back.
People are disappearing.
For people unaware, the Cambridge mob is a fictitious group that we came up with that is secretly influencing Jagex to put pieces of content in game that players don't like, that secretly benefits Jagex along the way. So if it's like a microtransaction update, or if it's something that stokes engagement that players don't like, yeah, it's the Cambridge mob.
Sure.
A nerf followed shortly by a treasure hunter promo.
That's classic Cambridge mob activity. Oh wait, that happened this week.
Damn.
Cambridge
Every
mob
time I'm
returns
out,
just
they
in
pull
time
me
for
back in.
Christmas.
Just in time.
But it is what it is, and overall, like I said at the top of the segment, I feel like it's a good piece of content for what it is. It's just maybe some of the high level player stuff around trim and whatnot, combined with the reward shop, just needs a little bit of nudging in a different direction, perhaps. So
Yeah.
Maybe less dust needed.
maybe
Maybe just make it like 3,700 dust instead of 37,000, and I will give this a 10 out of 10 update.
Yeah, because it's about because I don't know if we mentioned it, but it's about 1,000 dust for a full tier 10 size star.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, don't like that.
yeah. Anyways, with that, that's the shooting star update with the reward shop. But
One last thing before we move on from that. There is a title you can unlock, the Starstruck title.
oh, not the okay. In addition to the Stargazer.
Yeah, which you unlock by getting hit by a star when it lands, which I love.
Okay, so they kept that thing like they normally do, where there's a little extra thing they don't tell us about, because they put Stargazer in the title, but you can get Starstruck, I guess, by landing right on a star. Okay, that's actually kind of neat.
I love little things like that. That's great.
Yeah, and I mean, that's fun because it's something you can do with one instance, and it's just a neat little Easter egg that wasn't in the news post, and people won't know what it is until, of course, they look it up on the wiki. So, okay.
If you do want that title, there's an easy way to brute force it, because some of the stars on free-to-play worlds only have one landing spot.
Right.
And so if you're using an FC that's calling it out, they'll probably tell you, like, I think Crandor is one of them.
Yeah.
If there's a non-member's Crandor one, you know where the spot's going to be, and you can guarantee that title for yourself.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And they specifically mention Crandor free-to-play as being the easiest way to get it, as well as others being Ashdale and Tuska, because it's a 50% chance, as both of those only have two possible locations where the star can land.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's another thing that they did with this. Mentioned it briefly at the top, but there's an entire huge list now of places where these stars can land, basically adding in parts of the map that weren't there when the Shooting Star D&D came out all those years ago. So, all right, let's move on to some patch notes then. For the week, mainly focusing in on, to start with, the woodcutting and fletching update from last week. They brought in a much requested change that players have been asking for, and that wood boxes now have an inspect option that displays the list of contents within them, just like ore boxes have. which I think is wonderful. It just creates feature parity. So if you have the wood box and you have the ore box, you expect them to function similarly.
Mm-hmm.
Non-combat variants of the Imkando hatchet and crystal hatchet can now be used as an ingredient for the hatchet of Ember and Glade. The default stack make limit of bolts has been reverted to 60 instead of the default 20 used by other types of ammo. I feel like this was a change that they made to bring things up to parity, but then players last week said no, don't do that because we like it at 60 for the numbers and being able to do multiple iterations at once.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all for parity unless it's a nerf. And
Yeah,
I don't want parity.
We're getting there. The Everything is Tremendous achievement has now progressed even when an Ensouled Moonstone eats the logs that count towards this achievement. And this is what we were talking about nerf-wise. It doesn't look like it, but resolved an issue which resulted in inflated XP when creating eternal magic ammunition. So...
Yep.
What were the rates last week on this, Lemon?
So I only personally tested making ammunition from scratch, which was something like 1.3 mil XP an hour, something like that. So that's taking your logs, cutting them down, feathering the shafts, and then tipping them with Primal Arrow tips. I'm told that if you bought everything, you bought the feathered shafts, bought the arrow tips, it was something like 2.5, 3 mil an hour, something in that ballpark. And they have adjusted that down. The one thing to take note of with this is that I think it's level 104. You unlock the proficiency that allows you to fletch twice the amount at once.
Right.
So prior to that, it's a little bit less than Rune Arrow Tips, the XP rates, which I don't know off the top of my head. I think probably somewhere in the 500,000s, I would guess. And then once you've got that proficiency, maybe it's just a little bit under 500,000. And then once you've got that proficiency, I think it's just a little bit better than Dyne Arrows. But again, I haven't tested this. This is just going off of
back of the envelope math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, this was expected. I mean, they did specifically call out in the blog post that they wanted to shift the XP focus in the 100 to 110 bracket away from ammunition and towards weapons.
Yeah, and you get the community this week on this wondering why it's nerfed. I mean, come on, in what world is 2.3 mil XP an hour expected?
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen XP that. I mean, it's like spike XP, and if you could do it consistently, sure, it would be an eyebrow-raising rate per hour. When no one can actually, well, I'm not going to say nobody, but very few people can actually sustain that kind of GP per XP cost. But I think this was a little too reachable for the average person. I mean, if if you're still need fletching XP, you may not. I don't know. It just seems like it's more reachable than some of the other things have been in the past.
Yeah, and I know we had a discussion last week too about the bows and their intention to move away from ammunition, and now it's become clear that this was a bug and not intended. Since we're on this fletching and woodcutting,
was it? Because see, that's. I'm sorry, man, but okay, was not intended. Sure. Was the numbers right? Yeah, I'm sure they were. Right.
What do you mean?
I mean, nobody made a mathematical error. No one screwed up their checkbook. I mean, it was. It just. it just ended up being more than they thought it was going to be. Like they didn't
Right.
think people would be that quick and that good.
Right, that's sweaty. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I know with us having this discussion last week, I know, Lemon, you were heavily looking into this last week too, and the sense that we got, and I'd be curious to know if you agree on this, is that even with the changes this week, it still feels as though they didn't necessarily fully accomplish that move towards moving the bulk of the post 100 XP to the bows and crossbows from the ammo, with when you have things like Dyne Arrow and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling on the matter is that it would take a lot for the martial bows to dethrone Dyne Arrows.
Yeah.
But that being said, a lot of people are really liking the martial bows. So I think a couple of bits of context for that is, one, most people aren't degenerate like I am about fletching. One of my favorite things is weaving fletching actions in between other skilling actions, like fishing, to 0-time fletching. So, like, I love doing that. But, like, most people aren't doing that. If they're doing arrows, they're just,
fair.
like, chilling out in the fort.
Yeah.
And the martial bows are a lot more laid back. And I think the main benefit that I'm seeing a lot of other irons talk about is that you get a really good, the XP per hour may not be as good, but the XP per resource is pretty good.
Right. Right.
You know, so your resources from 110 woodcutting are going to go a long way in terms of fletching experience.
Right. And you know, the other thing I see with this, from my perspective too, is that these aren't locked behind the Grandmaster Quest extinction.
Right.
So,
though, you know, that being said, the arrows are really useful.
yeah, of course.
You know, if you're gonna want to range, you know, if you are looking at that masterwork bow and saying, "Oh, I'd like to make that," you're gonna want to have some Elder God arrows to play around with.
Yeah, because they work and they're tier 100 now. So
yeah.
All right. They also increased XP for fletching Eternal Magic stocks this week.
Sure.
They slightly increased the window of time to receive a guaranteed bird's nest when reacting to a lumberjack's intuition. That's something we talked about last week that probably needed to be changed, so that's nice. Upgraded Eternal and Primal Fletched weapons can no longer be made or worked on with a portable fletcher and instead require a fletching workbench as intended. And then we get to the question of wood spirits again. Wood spirits. So the normal and oak wood spirits have been added to more drop tables, including Minotaurs, where they replace small bronze salvage with normal wood spirits and tiny spiky bronze salvage with oak wood spirits. Then the asterisk, and I'll come to you, Z, in just a second here, pickpocketing ham members replaced small spiky bronze salvage with normal wood spirits and replaced the tiny steel spiky salvage with normal oak spirits. But there's a catch here. There's some fine print that's not in the patch note.
Yeah, it turns out if you have done I think it's Lost True Marbles quest, which is part of that like Thieving Guild's mini quest series, you do not get the wood spirit drop because that replaced drop gets upgraded to what then becomes oak spirits. So if you were planning to just AFK ham members to get your regular wood and your oak wood spirits, you cannot do that. As I found out this morning, because I was waiting for these patch notes to go get the spirits, and I was sadly disappointed and ended up at Minotaurs to get the remaining ones I needed.
Oops. Interesting.
It doesn't surprise me that they once again hate irons, and this is just one of a long list of updates to sort of slight me just a little bit to make me want to make a main account.
Wow. Okay. For the Slayer Tower Banshees, replaced spiky bronze salvage with oakwood spirits, flesh crawlers replace tiny steel salvage with oak. Young grot worms replace bronze javelins with normal wood spirits. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody actually use a javelin as a weapon.
I can't say that I have. There was in the beta, in a combat beta one time, remember?
Oh yeah, they had like a special attack or something on them.
And then you never seen a javelin again. They're like, oh, hell no.
One of my friends had a stack of like 1,500 rune javelins on the GE at one point, and they never sold.
Oh.
So, the skeletons in the lumberjack catacombs have loosened their bony grip on oak spirits and now dropped them as intended, and added noxious and ascended essence to the smithing interfaces, energies, and essences category. All right, then we go to some general patch notes. They added a hungry reindeer and food trough in the Christmas village, and this is that food sink that we talked about, all that holiday food that's been stacking up over the years. It now has a use. Reindeer can now be fed unnoted Christmas food in exchange for Christmas spirit with a daily cap, and the food can also be donated to the trough in exchange for Christmas spirit at a lower rate with no daily cap. So if you have food from past years, you can just flog them off that way.
Yeah, worth noting that. Did you say this, and was I just staring at my screen? The reason you would do this, as well as the spirit, is that you can get a what is it, Rudy, the reindeer pet?
Oh, I saw that. I saw that on social media this week, but I didn't put it in the notes. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why you want to do that. I meant to throw that in, and this is another one of those updates like the Starstruck title. They don't necessarily mention it, but it's here. So
yeah.
And I mean, with the thousands and thousands and thousands of wrapping paper that I have and will have by the time this is over, I mean, it makes sense to do it. So. Next up for patch notes, rest in peace Cerberus and other mobs from Elite Dungeon 4. The Slayer XP has been reduced on Cerberus from 10,000 to 2,500. Maelstrom, Raging Waterfiend, from 10,000 to 2,500, as well as Smolders, and the Denizen of Infernus, and the Chaos Demon Savage has been decreased from 8,000 to 2,000. I sadly did not get to use this for my group Iron Man character, but I will be using it still for the Dungeoneering tokens when it's time for that.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective on this, right? I think it was clearly overpowered, and I think it's still quite strong even where it is. The main reason that people do this anyway is the Dungeoneering tokens. And it sort of is a happy accident that you could get a lot of Slayer XP from it as well.
Yeah, because it was
you can still get a decent chunk of Slayer XP.
Yeah, because it was like 84 Slayer from one Hellhound task, if you were to do it on Cerberus from start to finish. So, I mean, as soon as I heard about this, I knew this had to happen, especially with how it was being used in Group Iron Man. So, it was only a matter of time, and I know our group was wondering, is this going to happen before or after the holidays? Because if it's after the holidays, maybe we can, use this a bit more. But it happened before. But as long as it still drops Dungeoneering tokens, I'm fine with these changes here.
Yeah.
More Group Iron Man changes in terms of items that can be stored inside group storage, including siege engine parts, Blood Amulets of Fury, Ascension Signets, Pernix's Quiver, the Blessed Flask. That's a big one. You could make one and just pass it around the group if you wanted to. Magic Butterfly Nests, Sirius Claws, Muspus Spines, Equipment Separators, Crystal Tree Blossoms, Brawling Gloves, and Hermotic Plates, believe it or not.
Which is very nice, because we have someone that has very high necro that can get us plates. He doesn't know it yet, but he will be getting plates for the rest of our team.
Right, because you can basically...
He'll find out when he listens to this episode.
Right, because you can basically AFK Hermod if you have high enough necromancy, and then you just keep getting the plates. So, Also, used or charged Graces of Elves can now be stored in Group Iron Man storage. And it's now also possible to report offensive clan or Group Iron Man group names via the report interface.
One other thing to mention in relation to Grace of the Elves.
Sure.
Signs of the Porter can now be noted, specifically so that it's more convenient to put them into storage.
That is a welcome change, because you know how many of those we get when you thieve. Is it Ithel or Amlod? One of those two.
Amlod.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so those will now be noted by the thieving
cape.
Yep.
Oh, that change is, not even, it's good for Group Irons, but it's also really good for mains too.
Yes.
So.
I will point out that on the patch note videos that Mod Lee does, I believe he said that you could charge your Grace of the Elves with the noted porters, and you cannot. That would be overpowered.
That would be huge. Yes, it would.
So,
Murderous Panic sold because they thought that's what it meant, and it turns out that that's just not true.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like with this week's collection of patch notes, you win some, you lose some. I think that's the best way of putting this together, if I'm being honest here. So
yeah.
Jaggeth taketh and Jaggeth giveth.
Yeah.
Or taketh.
By their directions with the Cambridge mob, right?
Uh-huh.
All right. Well, I'm going to thank some Patreon supporters for the last time this year. So right now I'd like to thank, in particular on this episode, Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Bladecom, Brayden K., Chilbura, Dominic R., Drama Free, Duramax, Gila Fleur, Hare A., Iskatu, Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongrath, Mr. T., Parnassius, Ricky A., Robbie D., Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Targayen, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Ukulele Steve, Woody, Zant, and Zazakon. Big, huge thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. It has been quite the year for us. Lots of updates to discuss. Lots of content out there on Patreon. And if you want to, join up, head on over to patreon.com/RSBANB. And it's for as little as $1 a month. And for some reason, right now it's showing the Canadian price on the screen. I wanted to show the American price, but. In any case, for as little as $1 a month, sign up, and with that, you gain access to an entire back catalog now of almost 80 monthly bits or specific bonus shows that we do each and every month. And with that, we just have we have 2 out there right now. We did the God alignment chart, D&D alignment chart, talking about their movements from the 5th to the 6th age. That episode's out now. And for the first week of January, thereabouts, we do have another one on the way, talking about why is PVM fun. We got a couple of PVMers together and just laid down a number of things from bosses across the game and asked, what makes PVM fun? Why do we like it? Why do we do it? And is there anything we can take away from this? So if you want to listen to any of those or any of the other ones from the back catalog, like Tannis' Revelation with Legacy Combat, that's one of the evergreen episodes. You can still pick that up and have benefits from it today. You might not think Legacy Combat and Blood Magic works, but it's still quite good, even in 2024. All of that and more for $1 a month. We also do have a VIP tier where for $3 a month, you'll get a rank on Discord, which includes a chat channel and mention on the podcast at the start of the month, plus access to high-quality stereo editions of the show each and every week. And, of course, we also have the Insider tier where you receive a shout-out on the podcast each week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes we use to make the clip show at the end of the year, which is only days away at this point. And, of course, as I mentioned at the top of the show, big, huge thank you to our experienced tier supporters as well. It's been quite the year. You guys have enriched us in ways that we haven't thought possible, specifically on the content front, I'll say, because I realize that sentence could come across one way differently, but I'm going to say specifically on the content schedule for the things that you've allowed us to do. It means the world to us. And if you think RSBANDB is great throughout the holiday season, there is the option to gift membership to friends and family as well. You just have to go to the Patreon website and click the button that'll tell you how you want to do that. But thanks so much, everyone. It means the world to us, and looking forward to seeing what we get up to in 2025.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, so that's the patch notes. We also know that the first content update of the year is going to be Beneath Scabaras Sands, the Return to the Desert storyline. How do we feel about the desert storyline? Do we have questers in the group here? Lemon, Z, you guys questers?
Kind of.
Okay.
Needed for trim.
Okay, so that way. Well, there's actually something with this that will help you out. They're removed this week the reputation requirements and all the Menaphos quests.
That's so good.
Very nice.
They said something on the. Hang on, let me see if I can find this
and
on the blog post.
What is nice about that requirement being removed is a lot of those quests that used to require the rep as a reward give you increased reputation gain.
Yes.
So I believe if you do Fight Club, you get, I think it's 200% extra rep. And normally you would have to have been, I think, tier 9 overall to unlock it.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's like, okay, sure, I have extra rep gain, but not for very long. Whereas, now I can get it as early. I'm on like tier 5 and I have it. And that'll make it so much easier to max rep for the eventual trim part 2 on my GIM.
And I know, Tanis, this is going to be good for you too, because when we heard about this quest, you were panicking that you were going to have to go back to your main and do this over the Christmas break.
Yeah, well, that is, yes, I'm thankful for that, because I don't like doing all of this. I mean, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Like,
I know how it is, mainly from the accessibility side.
Yeah, I mean, Desert Quest have been hit and miss since Itchin's Little Helper, right?
Like, not Itchin.
Icklin. Well, but we got a relationship. That's my pet name for. I mean, he's a dog. He's
It's a cat, isn't it?
Or a cat. Well, itching and scratching, whatever,
Icklerin's a dog.
Why do I need a cat? See, that's how little I know about the quest. I just spacebar to get through it.
There we go.
Other requirements for Beneath Scabaras Sands is Ode of the Devourer, which is the last one, Fight Club, and 87 Slayer. I think this is the highest Slayer requirement now for any questing game.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
The dex highest, I think, was 80 for the light with whichever one, the light within or within the light, I think was 80. So I think this is 87 is clearly the highest Slayer rec.
Yeah. Let's see, requirements. Oh, spiritual enlightenment, if you count that, the mini quest, one of the arc quests.
Oh,
had required 90. So, but before that, we have the Light Within, as you mentioned, Lord of Vampirium at 78, and Fate of the Gods at 76.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Fight Club's on that list. Needs to be done if you haven't done that. And then they say this is the anti-penultimate quest in the Desert series, and they include a link to Merriam-Webster for this for that. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
It'll be fun to return to the desert.
A bit of a word. Yeah. And it's interesting looking at this too, because there's a quest with a similar name on the old school side, Beneath Cursed Sands. So we'll have to see if they pull in any of those threads from Beneath Cursed Sands. But I think we had something that was in a similar vein to that.
Cursed Tides, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Is Beneath Cursed Sands the quest that's required for Tombs of a Mascot?
Yes.
Interesting, because this is leading up to the we've it's been stated we're having a showdown with a mascot at the end of this. So
yeah, and then they have a nice full infographic of all of the requirements that are needed for Ode of the Devourer and how that leads into then Beneath Cursed Sands. So
nice.
Looking forward to that when we get there on the 13th. And if you break this down entirely for this quest, this is another quest with huge requirements. I know you, Lemon, and I were talking about unlocking the gate on Group Iron Man at some point.
Yes.
86 archaeology for Tombs of the Warlock, 75 necromancy, 73 hunter, 72 fishing, 70 magic, 70 thieving, 70 cooking, 68 crafting, 64 construction, 60 strength, and then a bunch 50 and below. So we're getting back to that point where there's that huge web of quest requirements keeping into this. But we live for that here on Quest Weeks when that's time. I appreciate that you guys just like doing quests from time to time or for Trim. So.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying going through some of the quests again. Like I just did the City of Sentiston quest line. I did Fate of the Gods earlier this afternoon, and like I'm putting together information that I have now that I didn't have the first time going through. Like seeing Zaros and Azanadra in Fate of the Gods, and the interplay there, versus where things ended up at City of Sentiston. It's all really interesting.
Yeah. And
I really appreciate having the full perspective on it.
Right, and being able to do it in a much more compressed time period rather than needing to wait years and years in between. That's another big thing that I always run into when doing these quests second time like that. So
yeah, I've done Fight Club. I couldn't tell you anything about it.
No, and that's fine because in general we did a Desert Quest tier list for Patreon a few months back, and most of those quests there were kind of hit or miss, if I'm being honest. So we do have a bit, that we're looking forward to on this to see if they manage to iterate and produce quests that people enjoy, I'll say, for this and hold up to modern standards, which I think they will. I see no reason why they wouldn't, given what we saw with Ode of the Devourer. So,
piggybacking off your point about how you can do quests like in succession without having to wait years.
Yeah,
I don't know when this update happened, but I had done it on my other two accounts where now you can sort the quest list by the specific quest line. Now it's a lot easier for me to actually be like, okay, I actually want to knock out all of the vampire quests in order or all of the desert quests in order, so I can actually go,
and see which ones are in that.
Exactly, and I don't need to use like the wiki and chart everything out in Excel to find out, what are all the recs that I need to get this. I can just quickly look in the in-game quest log to find all of that.
Yeah, I think that was a Monstu update after the Elder God Wars series ended, if I remember correctly. It started out as one of his ninja passion projects, but worked its way into the game. Just new methods of sorting that quest list. So
nice. We love ninja updates.
We do, and mods do.
Yes.
The 12 Days of Christmas is here with the 12 Daily Keys of Christmas Bond Bundle. If anybody is interested in procuring this for their mains, what this is 4 bonds. You get 12 daily keys for 12 consecutive days, so 144 keys total. And the reason that they highlight, of course, is the Aurora Trail, the Pink Santa Hat, bonus wrapping paper, but also with that, there's the new winter sports outfit, the Aurora Die, and of course the unannounced and already in-game Aurora Santa Hat, meaning 2 Santa Hats in the year are in the game for this year so far. How do we feel about this? How do we feel about the prices of bonds after this? Has anybody had a chance to look at the bond market in the last 24 hours or so?
Well,
I think they're like 170 mil or something.
Yeah, because I saw somebody in clan chat last night trying to buy for 155 and they wouldn't buy.
Yeah.
I know somebody a few days ago bought for around 160, so they're just going up, up, and up with that. And I mean, fair. I mean, allows Jagex to make money at the end of the day. And I wonder, do you think there's any specific limit as to where the bond prices are going to end? If you had to put a mill guess on that?
I mean, how long of a time scale are we talking?
Let's talk 6 months.
6 months? I think it's very likely we're above 200.
I see that happening.
I can see it. There's enough ways to do even like Zammy. It's so accessible for people in the PVM tier that call themselves like higher-ish PVMers. Zammy is so accessible and makes you so much GP even through alkables that maintaining bonds at that price, if you're trying to maintain bonds, is within the realm of possibility that 200 could be supported.
And I know that's so interesting to hear because based on our latest analytics from earlier this spring when we did a survey, most of our people that were listening to this podcast at the time were on the road to maxing. So that's probably not within their wheelhouse, so to speak. But I think that gives an interesting perspective in terms of where the bond market flows and who is buying them and who is moving them. So thank you for that, Z.
Yeah, I would assume on the up and up, because I'm in clans with people that are getting to the max stage.
Right.
And if you tell them, because they're complaining of the bank space, if you tell them, just buy all the bank boosters, they're going to be like, that's $100. Whereas to me, it's like, that's like $3 bill because I just have the money from, all the various PVMing I'm done. But that's not how they see it because, if you're getting up to the point of PVMing, you see it all more through the dollar investment, because for you, it's so much time to get that level of GP. Whereas once you've mastered certain content, you just get so much money per hour.
GP is not a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about like what our group has been up to in a minute, but relevant to this, our main PVMer on the team already has like a 1.1 bill bank or something like that. And we've been at this for what, like 6 weeks or something now? 8 weeks?
Yeah, around there.
So.
Coming up on 8. It was the end of October, I think we got this. So
yeah. So starting from a fresh account, if you know what you're doing,
if you know what buttons to push,
which is a big caveat.
Yeah,
but.
Yeah, absolutely. And that also goes into something else we can talk about that was in the Group Iron Man section, but we'll bring this forward to here since it's related to bonds. Is that I know that both of you were mentioning that you'd like more options to purchase additional Group Iron Man bank storage.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
I think
for the group,
I mean. Yeah, this is money that's sort of being left on the table. We would love to purchase more.
I'll pay 200 mil a bond if you get me more bank space.
Is this kind of an issue? Is it an issue where you're like legitimately running out, or there might just be days where random junk gets thrown in there and then it gets full? Or
there's a lot of random junk that accumulates.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff that just accumulates in there. Because
it's
you're
not
handing
useless,
things off.
But it could be used. Like I heard, I think in one of the previous podcasts that there was like yak hide armor. We don't have anything like that in our bank.
I forget who said that. I think that was the Nabi group, wasn't it?
That was hilarious. I don't remember which group, but I was like, how on earth do you function as a bank there? So we don't have that stuff, but we might have some, like we're switching player unfarmed animals amongst the group, or we have some potions that we're saving for when someone logs on. And so we are very close normally to hitting the end of our storage,
right?
Pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one person still needs to unlock invention in our group. So like anytime we get crafting supplies, they're just getting chucked into the group storage,
right?
Like that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah. Okay. And with that, you can see it. And my sense is based on what I've seen from Jagex in particular, and the time it took for us to actually get Group Iron Man. And at one point, I think the group storage and bank was the technical holdup for them. Is that my feeling is that the group banking system is probably just stapled together in some weird way. on the main bank that it might just be too complicated to do such a thing like that. Maybe. Or maybe it's just money that was left on the table.
Yeah, we can hope, but if they want a financial incentive to work on it, I'll pay.
Fair enough.
I mean, we so much talk about, monetization of the game through, like Treasure Hunter and things like that. But things that like specifically irons are excluded from. But like, we've got money too.
Right. I mean,
if you give us something that we want to pay for, we'll pay for it.
Banks, aside from the bank services, what else would you buy? Cosmetics or what?
Personally, I mean, I don't, but some people do. Keepsake keys, or I mean, you could say that's a
yeah,
cosmetic.
that's kind of a cosmetic, but maybe not.
Yeah, so I mean, it's mostly just keepsake keys and
or getting Premiere.
Premiere, yeah.
So we use bonds on Premiere because that does give you an inherent advantage. We'll talk about that later. And you can also buy the Desert Pantheon, or I think it's 2 or 3 bonds, which can increase your cap for divine locations, which is an old iron strat that we use a little bit now. And once you unlock the Garaja dungeon at, I think it's 95 dungeoneering in Pref, that'll be helpful then as well.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing is that, with bonds approaching, like we said, potentially 200 and, 160, at this point, you look at, 300 and, or rather 2 to 3 bonds for those auras, you're easily, looking close to 400 mil for just an aura like that. So,
yeah.
Yep.
It's substantial, but we've been touching this idea from the periphery here. So let's hear a bit about your group, Iron Man group here. You called yourselves the Misthalin Milk Maids, and so how exactly did this group come to be? And the name I'm actually interested in.
We were toying around with names for a little while. I am a big fan of I think your group iron name should be whimsical and fun. And I also love is alliteration the 3, the repeated of the same starting. And then I just figured we should do something that's like related to, like a location.
Right.
Like sort of root ourselves in the game world. One of the other ones that we had considered at one point was the Taverly Tuna Tusslers, which is also very good, but there's something inherently funny about the milkmaids, so...
I agree. So obviously we have you, Lemon, and we have you, Z. How did you two meet, and what about the rest of your group? Where did you form out of?
So I don't actually know what clan you're in, Z-Score, because you only guessed in Iron Age, but the rest of us are all members of the same clan, Iron Age. So we all know each other through there. I think Ian is the gold key. Flynn, I think, is a bronze key in there, and Travis and I are admins. So we all know each other, and Z-Score has been guesting in there for as long as I've been around, I'm pretty sure.
It's like a year and a half, maybe pushing 2 years now.
Yeah. So when I was first recruited into this team, it was myself and 2 other people, both of which dropped out.
Oh, okay.
So we had brought Flynn on, and I think they dropped out, and then we brought in Travis, and then Ian, and then I think you were the last Phil.
Yep.
Relatively close to launch.
It was like a week off.
It was one of those things. We weren't necessarily shooting for a 5-person team. Like, it didn't really matter that much. If we ended up with 4, we ended up with 4. That was fine. But
and I guess with that, were you shooting for the rank that you're at? Right now, you're on page 2. Presently ranked, as of recording, rank 24.
Yeah, we've been.
Were you shooting for that?
Yes and no.
No, we had no idea we would be this rank.
Okay. We're not shooting for any specific rank in terms of, like we're not focused on, like getting front page would be cool. We keep bubbling out of it. I think the closest we've been that I've caught was like 22 or 21. But we're here to have fun. For me, having fun, my end goal is 200 mil all again. So like, I'm gonna be relatively high up on the high scores.
I remember talking to you about that as soon as we got the news out of, I think it was the Summer Summit, that you were going to be doing this again with 200 mil all. So
yeah,
that's neat that you're keeping up on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not expecting that anybody else is going to be doing that.
No.
Z-Square, you keep talking about doing trim again.
Maybe after trim, we'll see. If you're already at 5.8 at that point, maybe I'll feel the pressure from you, just like motivating me to join you at 5.8.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think Ian had said that, initially this was sort of like he's going to play for a while and see how it goes. And then, we've all just been having a lot more fun than we expected, I think.
That's a consistent thing I hear. Honestly, from whether it be our group or, groups that are a little bit less organized or, ones that figured out that, oh, God, we can actually do this. Let's just actually push this a little bit harder for where we're at. So, yeah,
I think one of the things that makes it feel I don't know to what degree other teams are really paying attention to ranks. But because the high scores are so fragmented, right? Because it's by group size, and you've got competitive and non-competitive. It's relatively easy to get like a decent page ranking, just because
After that first month, we saw a lot of groups start to thin out, and you can see that the founder status icon is starting to disappear on some of these, even on the page where you guys are.
Yeah, there's a couple on that page.
So,
it's. I think, like overall, my feeling is that there are a lot more people playing than I expected. I mean, it's all going to be a matter of attrition for how long people really stay playing. I've also seen a lot of. I've seen a lot of clanmates. Downgrade their irons into normal GIMs.
Okay.
And I've seen a lot of people just making fresh non-competitive GIMs.
Oh, interesting. So non-competitive and just starting a new account just because to have it as part of this stage, I guess?
Yeah. I guess some people are play an iron to get away from all the MTX stuff, so I guess in that regard, like, if that's why you're playing an iron, it makes sense to not be so fussed about staying an iron and converting into a GIM, but anyway.
Yeah, I can see that. And, the gold standard for me is always going back to the misplaced items website that tracks player count over time. And, we saw a bit of a bump when GIM started. It's kind of leveled out since, and I think we're being mainly carried now through the Christmas event on that. So,
yeah.
In addition to the group itself, how exactly have you set up your team? Like, does everybody have specific roles? What exactly is the setup with that? Specializations, what have you? How does that work with the Misthalin Milk Maids?
I feel like we just sort of fell into doing certain things.
Okay, that's fair.
Like we didn't really have a plan. Like, we never discussed a plan, as far as I know.
we only knew one thing, and that was that one of our teammates, which is Milkman Flynn, was going to rush Necro and do PVM. That was all we knew. The rest of us, it was just kind of like, oh, we'll just play our own game, which I've heard other previous podcasts, it sounds like teams are just kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah.
But it very quickly evolved to, okay, we have this GP and charm and secondary machine through Flynn. How can we somehow morph our playstyles to accommodate him, because then he helps us?
Yeah.
So if I think what that means is like I rushed Herblore, I do all my jots in Herblore so I can make him potions. Lemon very early on rushed Necro, which was good just because you could get Necro, but also it meant rushed Invention. But it meant she had the crafting and smithing levels to make Flynn gear so he could then start doing stuff, and then got crafting to make a Zuck cape for him. And then like Travis did BGH, which caused a bunch of shark that we could then cook to give to Flynn. So it was all like, we're all branching out into different ways that kind of supports him just getting us a bunch of alcohols, getting a bunch of charms, getting a bunch of resources.
It's interesting. I didn't realize there was a crafting requirement of 90 on the Zuck capes.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Did we.
You don't really think about it because by the time these things were added into the game, we were already maxed.
Yeah, you just use the ignis stone on your kiln cape and you're done. You don't even realize there's a number behind it, right?
Yeah. Like one of the first things that I decided to do was get dive, because not having double surge and not having dive and not having mobile is really obnoxious. So I did that, and then like Flynn was rushing necromancy, and somebody's got to get the level to upgrade the gear. It's like, well, I'm already 60 smithing.
Well,
so like I might as well. And then from there, it's like, well, I'm already like 70 smithing. I might as well be the one who unlocks Invention. And then I'm like, well, I'm like, somebody's got to do divination and archaeology. Like, I guess I'm going to do it. Travis got us a Matic from Big Game Hunter that I stole.
Bill has it, by the way. I'm still maybe one day
it's
I'll see
untradeable
it.
now.
Oh.
We'll get to that.
And see, that's the thing I found as well, is that, everybody pointed at me and said you're doing herblore and farming and maybe some PVM. But what I also realized with that is that in addition to that herblore and farming, I'm also now the hunter person, because I have the highest hunter from catching my chins and other things. And I will be the one to go to BGH soon. So.
Yep.
We could not have predicted this day one that we would be in the pass in which we're in. I don't think this was on anyone's, except for maybe Flynn had this plan for himself, but I don't think the rest of us wrote on our bingo boards what we were going to be prioritizing.
Right, because, I mean, you put this up on a wall and you say, I don't know if anybody in your group specifically has this as a goal, but you put up on the wall and say Reaper Crew. I mean, that's obvious. That's kill every boss. And what is the most effective way to do that? Right now, it's with necromancy. Primarily.
Yeah.
So
on the October, was it October? Yeah, it would have been October. The round table, Shane, like I specifically said to you, like, I don't think it's worthwhile to rush Invention. And then what do I do within the first 2 weeks? I Invention.
Yeah, and I mean, our group is kind of a mixed opinion on that. It's nice to have for mobile and whatnot, and nice to have have the ability to have the charge pack and whatnot if you're not going to be the main inventor. But it is a difficult thing to do just because of all the inputs that are associated with it. So how are you finding it?
Well, once other people started to unlock Invention, I had the highest divination level. I really enjoy Hall of Memories. So I did a bunch of that, got my divination level up.
Are you one of the metronome people there?
Yes. So like I sort of put it on myself, like I'm gonna, one way or the other, right? I'm gonna make it so that I'm gonna solve our energy problems.
Yeah.
So I went back and forth on it a few times. Like normally I'm like if I was starting a fresh iron, I would be like, right, I got a lamp, herblore, so that I can start making potions, so that I can unlock prith, like all this sort of stuff. But as we mentioned earlier, Z-Score is doing the herblore stuff. So like, I don't need to do herblore, because when I need overloads, we're already going to have overloads, right?
Yeah. So what's your herblore method aside from just Jack of Trades? And, whatever comes in through PVM drops, I guess. That's probably the main thing, right?
You answered. I did Jack of Trades. We have 3 Jack of Trades because we have Premier. And then, Penguin Points, Troll Stronghold, and then all of the quest lamps, because I'm now at I think like 410 quest points. So I've done like the Ritual of the Moderate, the Wild Gothic Sleeps, the Sliske's Endgame. So I've dumped all of that XP.
All the Grandmaster lamps, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So now I'm at like 93 now, I think.
Yeah, so with him doing that, I've not needed to focus my experience on Herblore, so I've instead been putting in archaeology, because either I was going to rush 99 for the Dunk Relic, or I was going to rush 86 and unlock Gate of Eladinis, which is what I did.
And we know why we like the gate, for the crafting XP inside, but also the drops, which I know you've been having trouble with there on that character.
Yeah, I thought, well, I could do the Dunk Relic, and then I would be set. But if I do Gate, then I can get the Prayer Codex, which would be really useful for Flynn. Get the Dowser, which would be incredible for energy generation. Theoretically, get a Runic Attuner for use at some point. And then the Scripture of Eladinis, which is just like so ridiculously overpowered.
And that's the thing.
I can't even...
When that came out, I thought people were sleeping on that, but you put that into GIM lens specifically for Herblore, and holy crap.
Yeah, so...
Unless they nerf it.
Yeah, let's not put that out into the world. I don't want that to happen before I get one. So, I am now 476 KC in to Gate of Eladinis. The drop rate for any one particular drop is 1 in 480.
Yep.
And there are 4 of them, so you would expect 4-ish by now. I had a Runic Attuner on like 110 KC, and I have had nothing since, apart from 10 latent offerings.
Yeah, and we discussed
I had 95 to 99 divination there.
Yeah, and we discussed how, the lack of use of those latent offerings are.
Yeah. So now I'm unlocking the Dunk Relic instead, because now everybody is going to have divination by the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
Or divination, invention by the end of the weekend. So.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, gosh.
But on the plus side, like I only did like 100 KC at Gate of Eladinis on release, because.
So you weren't burnt out like Bears was when he was on.
I'm not. No, I mean, I'm upset. I'm not burnt out. I did a 100 KC on Squiggly on release, but like I was already 200 mil all. I didn't need any of the drops.
Right.
So I was really looking forward to like sinking my teeth into it on the GIM, and like the XP from Gate of Eladinis is actually really, really nice. It all scales on your level, so your particulars are going to vary.
And I think
but
that's
in
interesting,
terms of like,
because when we looked at it on the start, it really looked like crafting XP was the thing you could just sit there and do what you do at Croesus. But 95 to 99 and 480 kills that's not too shabby.
No, it's not. And I don't remember exactly what mining level I started, but I'm at 92 now. In terms of like overall XP, doing an hour of Gate of Eladinis is more efficient than spending the time on the individual things.
How do you feel about that, Tanis? Because I know that was a big thing with you when that boss came out. And the XP side of it. I know a boss is still a boss, but...
Doesn't do it for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
fair enough. How about you, Z? Do you have any big sagas like Lemon has with the gate?
I'm fortunate that most of my grinds haven't been nearly as painful as Lemon. I have now almost finished Quest Cape. So I need the archaeology grind that Lemon was able to lamp that I don't have any lamps for. Which is
nor do you have a Matic for, because I stole it.
Nor do I have a Matic for, so I'm suffering in silence with like a Bane Matic. And I'm working on the Extinction Rex, because you need that 85 level, and I think it's like crafting, smithing, invention, or something else. But for the most part, it's been relatively smooth sailing of just, you know, at the start, I followed that like efficiency pathway guide on the wiki, got up to like the mid stage point, and then said, okay, let me just focus on Quest Cape, and that'll probably get me rounded out.
Yeah, and I know our group has a saying, sometimes in jest, but, you know, quests are fun for everyone, so.
My group doesn't say that.
No.
I think they said archaeology is a pain to get, and I wish I got a dowser from Gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's fair given the rates there for being 100% honest on that. And another thing when we asked in terms of how the team is laid out, you mentioned that learning to ask for assistance is a big thing.
Yeah. We all have played Irons. I've been playing, an Iron since before the game mode released. I'm used to doing everything myself. And it's been like I've had to remind myself that like I have other people and I can ask if they have things. So like I don't need to drop everything that I'm doing if I need to get like 5 gold bars to make some jewelry. I could just say, hey, does anybody have gold bars? And then somebody says, yeah, I'll drop some in storage for you. And it's so nice. It's so nice.
And definitely a departure to keep going off of that. All of us, I think all of us have maxed irons. So like we've hit the full end game. We know more or less what it means to like go through the iron stages, and we're used to just doing it all alone. So like even this morning, one of our teammates, Ian, was trying to get invention unlocked, and so he needed a bunch of crafting supplies, and Flynn had royal d'hide but not leather, and he needed gold bars, and so he was like kind of nervous to just ask because I already have Priff unlocked. So for me to tan, it takes me 10 minutes to tan like 1500 hide. Otherwise, you have to do the Al Kharid walk, which is a little bit more painful. And Lemon and I both have 80 mining, so we can easily get gold bars doing living rock. And so it's kind of like sometimes you need to force it and ask around like, hey, what are people looking for? What are people doing? And if I know I can do something more efficient, it is better for me to do it because it saves them time. And right now, because Lemon and I are further ahead in XP-wise, it's better if we can get them up to our stage. Because then it's just, if we're all at the same playing field, it'll probably just, there's something about a tide lifts all boats or something like that. So just getting used to knowing how to ask around for stuff and then being willing to just help your team has been a super big departure from playing solo as an Iron.
Yeah, and, prior to this myself, I had never, played an Iron Man character, so I wasn't sure what to expect, and there were always certain things that I knew would, bother me in relation to that, in particular related to content that I found annoying or difficult, and I have to say that the group Iron Man side of it has made that better in that way, but I think that leaning on that for efficiency as well is wonderful when you have a good group dynamic like that. So
yeah, and also like efficiency aside, it's like sometimes people just really don't like doing a certain thing.
Yeah,
and like I really don't mind training divination and getting energy. So like I'm happy to do that. Whereas yes, it's more efficient because I've got the highest tier energy and other people don't. But like that aside, like I'm just kind of happy to do it.
Yeah, that's fair. And with that, we can kind of catapult us into the last area here, and that's just general tips and tricks that you guys might have. So let's run through a few of these. And I know on launch day, this was actually one of the first things we did as well, was just unlocking that first divination engram. But I assume you've done the entire thing already, being the main divination person, Lemon.
Yes, and the thing to I completely forgot about again because the Iron mindset, you don't need a divination level to do the engrams, you just need the energy. So if you have a teammate with a higher divination level, they can give you the energy and then you can do the engrams, and that can help you boost your way forward through the levels. So, it's a little bit of an imposition, right, to be asking everybody to get you energy, but, if you can...
That's a big step forward if it means you're going to unlock inventions sooner.
Yeah, because, these are, like, pretty massive XP drops. Like, each engram is comparable to, like, doing a cache. It might even be more XP than doing a cache.
Yeah.
So... It's so good.
Yeah. What do we got?
But, you gotta
you gotta ask.
You gotta impose on somebody.
Yeah.
So
what do we got with the White Knight Armory? I know this was popular at one point in the past. I think for invention.
Yes, precisely that. It's a really, really, really cheap shop to get a bunch of components and stuff. I finally got around to unlocking it this morning. I used a cannon. It took me 45 minutes to unlock the full shop for, the 1,300 Black Knight kills.
That's not bad. It's not bad.
It's really not bad.
It's not bad.
So,
and the white armor provides you what specific invention component? Nightly?
It's not about the nightly.
No,
it's just about, all the other miscellaneous stuff. Anything with hilts is going to give you base parts for, I believe that's augmenters, the swords and the long swords for dexterous components, etc., etc.
All right, fair enough. We already touched a bit on communication, asking for things. What in particular did you want to go in here, the both of you?
Just again, what we talked about, like
learning to ask for help.
Ask if anybody needs anything. Ask if you need something.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I say to the team, hey, does anybody need anything? Is there anything I can help with? Somebody might say something that they wouldn't normally ask for.
Right. Kind of like I'm going to the store. Do you need anything?
Mm-hmm. Precisely.
Yeah.
And just remembering that, at least for our case, I'm assuming most groups are like this. Like, you joined a group together, you guys picked each other, you want to be on the same team, and remembering that there's an incentive. There actually is an incentive to normally help out your teammates here. So be forthcoming with that, because we all want to progress together.
Yeah, absolutely. God banners.
Yeah, so in case anyone does not know, I don't think I've seen this in previous podcasts, but there's these god emissaries around the world, and you can do a series of tasks for them. It might take you like 30 minutes total. And if you do that, you unlock a buff that you can do, I think it's once a day. And there's 3 different types of buffs. One of the buffs increases combat, I think, by +5 in all of the combat levels, and it lasts like a overload kind of. Another one can boost a non-combat skill by 2 levels. So I use that, of course, for herblore, so I can make potions. And then the last one, which we learned during our GIM progression, was there is an agility +5 boost that you can get for 30 minutes.
Ooh.
And what that works is, one, you want to do it at 80 agility to do the Anachronio course, but also the way that the Wilderness course scaling works will factor in boosted levels. So it's effectively, I think it's around like an extra like 3k XP that you get if you're doing your sure-footed at the Wilderness course. So like, I know Travis and I went out of our way to get the banner unlock because we were, rushing for Priv to get the 75 agility, and that +5 agility bonus mattered.
Okay, I see. And, just looking at the wiki here, it says that other visible boosts will not stack.
Correct.
So it's just better to get the best option. Now, how does that compare to an agility potion?
I don't know if I think agility potions are +3. Don't quote me on that.
That would be my guess, yeah.
But I believe that's what it is.
Yeah, agility potion is +3.
And that's going to degrade, whereas
Yeah, and you can't really do much with +3 compared to +5. So the exploration boost for that is massive.
Yeah. And you don't have to re-potion because it's just a constant lasting for 30 minutes. So it roughly lines up with your sure-footed anyways, because your sure-footed lasts for 40 minutes. So it's just a good thing to knock out early on if you're training agility, or if you want, the other boost for herblore, crafting, or smithing, or what have you.
Right on. Lamping archaeology. This one hurts me because it's such a favorite skill of mine and so many others.
I have said on this show that one of my favorite things about archaeology is the XP curve, and I stand by that if you're doing 1 to 120 in a single sitting. But if you are, say, starting a new account and trying to rush 86 for a quest,
right? Okay,
it has been really beneficial. In terms of what can I do to catapult myself ahead in order to help bring everybody up behind me, it has been really instrumental. Because, I mean, the early archaeology levels are just terrible.
Yeah, I think that the general
slow.
sense is that it feels that way until like the mid-60s or so, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so I trained archaeology normally and up until level 70. And then I decided that I kind of just wanted to rush it. And I have not looked back.
and I mean, you then had the benefit. You had better medics. You can go back to all those other sites, complete the collections when you need to, and you still get the benefit along the way.
Yeah, and I'm not going to get the professor at level 99. I'm not going to get that unlocked because I'm going to be way behind on restorations and discoveries. But I'm going to be way ahead in terms of, the thing that I'm focusing on right now is 85 for Ancient Invention.
Right.
Which will then be able to help catapult everybody else.
Yeah.
So,
and, we forget about what Invention was like before Ancient Invention, so 100% fair on that.
Yeah.
Just those extra two gizmo slots most of the time.
Yeah, and sort of related to this, I'm not doing any combat right now because I'm just doing skilling. So, I'm not really training Invention very quickly, but I'm the one who's doing Ancient Invention. So Flynn is, because he's the big combat boy, he is leveling up his tier 90 necromancy gear, chucking it in storage, and then I'm siphoning it. So we're boosting me up. I'll be able to make alchemical onyx jewelry for us and be able to unlock us Ancient Invention. And again, we'll be able to pull everybody up behind me.
Yeah, and that's not a synergy you think of, and I don't think we considered that our group at least did in before launch, but now it's like, what can we do for Invention weapons? And the 70 and 80 necromancy ones look appealing on that, and then when you're the dedicated inventor there, that just makes sense.
Yeah.
We already talked about Z's quest lamps for While Gothic Sleeps, Extinction, and Endgame that you put into Herblore, so there's that. Devotion you have on the list too. That's a huge one.
Yeah, so there's two ways to unlock Devotion. There's the way I don't like, which is you do the Tuska's minigame, which is relatively fine, but it's a minigame, and we know how I feel about Star, so I'm naturally not a huge fan of it.
Fair.
And then the other way is you can unlock it from God War's Dungeon. And most people know that you would have to kill, I believe it's either Grador or it's Kree. But you can also get it from the just regular mobs in God War's Dungeon. So the way that I liked to do it was if you're in the main area with all of the 4 different God enemy variants, you can kill the orcs. And if you kill an orc, it aggroes all of the other orcs around you. And so you can sit in AFK, and for me it took me, I think, maybe 50 minutes, where I didn't have to have my hands on. I could just sit AFK, play my other character, and every time I killed an orc, every other orc in a nearby 10 by 10 radius was aggroed onto me. So if you don't have Devotion already, that is a very good way to unlock
that. Honestly sounds like a more fun approach than the Tuska event based on how I feel about the Tuska gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I know it's not bad. We've had two, I think, of our group go through there, but for me, I kind of feel the same way you do about mini games like that. So, fair enough. FPF Spotlight, Flash Powder Factory.
Yeah, just a PSA. I know there there was
It's
some
next
group.
week again, isn't it?
It is today.
Okay, today.
So as of today, which is Friday through Sunday, you will have it on Spotlight. I know the Nabes, I think, rushed it the first
that was
week.
them. Yeah.
Ludicrous, crazy. I would never do that. So this is now my week of suffering in silence, because I'm the herblore person, getting the outfits so I can make potions more efficiently. So if anyone's planning to get the botanist and the flash powder outfit, this is the week to do it, because you can buy the botanist outfits with the in-game currency, and then you can use Thaler to buy the flash powder stuff.
Yeah. And you know, I feel like everybody has a story about that minigame. I know people have burnt out on that before on, alt accounts and whatnot. So best of luck to you for that.
I will have a movie up while I do it.
Good. Saren spells work within the group, and you put that on paper and you're like, yeah, that makes sense, but that's just one of those things that we weren't sure about coming in. Which one are you guys finding the most benefit from?
We have not used it yet. I just tested it out right before the podcast to make sure, because for anyone who does not know, if you're playing with Iron Men, you cannot use Saren spells on them unless they've already unlocked Saren spells themselves. So like I could not intercept right now. Lemon's not done the quest. I can't intercept Lemon on her iron with my iron. So it is very good now that we have that functionality within the group, because I didn't know if that would be a thing.
Right.
Obviously, since most of our group consists of PVMers, intercept is huge for a lot of bosses. I also am assuming, but have not tested, that the prisms will work, which means I can then use that prism of, I think it's restoration, that heals familiars, which is often a pain point at Zamorak, which is normally where you bring a Hellhound. And if you're not paying attention and you're accepting people, it's very easy for your Hellhound to die. And so this way, if anyone is noticing, they can heal up someone else's Hellhound. So I'm just very glad that they implemented it, because I was worried. And it'll also be good for raids. We won't be blocked by like, oh, I need everyone to have intercept for me to accept them. I can just go and do it.
Yeah, we were talking about that a few weeks back, what raids might look like on a 5-person setup with that. So fair enough. You have Premier Artifact. You also have this on the list. I know members of our group have been using this as well. Not only for the jacket trades reset, but also just the porter benefits too early on. We found nice.
It's just too good. If you have it, you might as well use it. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, I feel like I have to do this if I want to be super competitive. And there's nothing I can console you with. Just if you want to get it, or if you already have Premiere, like this exists and you probably should be using it.
Yep. I know it became a mainstay for me with the 120 archaeology push on main, and since then it's there's pretty much if I'm doing anything in game that can interact with it, there's a very real chance that I will be using Premier Artifact, and it's honestly the reason I keep up Premier at this point, I think.
Yeah.
So
really good if you're doing archaeology. Really good if you're doing that gem mining for invention.
That too. Slime gathering, Mauritania medium. Yes.
Yep.
100%.
Do your diary so that you can get the daily teleports to the slime. Or if you are Flynn, who is honestly like a little bit of a madman sometimes. He was saying earlier that he was just standing down there with a yak, spamming summoning potions and using winter storage scrolls to send them to the bank.
That's another
He's
way,
already
I
99
guess.
summoning.
Yeah, he's 99 summoning. He's 116 necromancy.
And I find that funny because who normally uses winter storage?
I have not used winter storage scrolls in years. Not like that. Oh.
Well, thanks for the tips. That's some in there I was aware of, some that I was not, and hopefully for the group Iron Man listeners out there, you guys find that interesting, and maybe some of these in various aspects can apply to main as well. I know we talked a bit earlier about group storage, but is there anything you want to touch on with that? We mentioned the viability of it, but any hiccups that you found?
Yeah. One thing that so there have been some what to me I perceive as inconsistencies about what can and can't be put into group storage. And even if things are consistent, sometimes I just don't like it. Like chaotic weapons can't be put into storage. That's like, I understand it, but I don't like it.
Because then you could have like a dedicated dungeoneer and you could get the 80-ish crystal, or sorry, not crystal, chaotic.
And you'd be able to
weaponry.
just, like,
that was my plan. I rushed
trade stuff around when you're not using it.
Are those augmentable? They are,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Same with the royal crossbow. You can't put that into storage either. In terms of like first good weapons, in terms of what could be put into storage, you're looking at like,
that's
Dragon
funny.
Rider lances and stuff.
That's
which
funny
is
you
like,
mentioned that, because royal crossbow was my first invention weapon back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh.
So.
Yep. So it's frustrating. I'm sure there's like some technical reason, because I think like you can only have one royal crossbow, you can only have one chaotic at a time, I think. So there's probably some technical reason for why it is, but it's frustrating. In terms of like some inconsistencies, augmented dragon matic you can put into storage. Augmented Incando matic you cannot put into storage. So I have now stolen the one dragon matic we had because I upgraded it.
Oops.
But like a crystal hatchet, you can put that into storage. I was not expecting the crystal tool to be able to put into storage.
Because you can't put the dust into storage.
You can't put the dust into storage. Oh, another thing that would be really nice to put into storage to, like feed your main inventor is like the elite dungeon relics. Specifically, you've been doing a lot of Cerberus. The relics from that you can't put into storage, unfortunately. So, I would love to see this list get expanded over time. We just had some stuff this week that got put into storage. That we just got the ability to put into storage, like the brawling gloves and the hermetic plates and the muspa spines, but still some ways to go. So,
yeah, I think you lean into that and you realize that it could be item based, it could be group storage based, or just 20 years of different ways of making items. And at the end of the day, I think we got a lot that can go in there, and your group in particular, out of what we've showcased here, I think has shown how that can be used. So anything else either of you want to bring to the forefront before we move on here?
The one thing I wanted to mention, and I want to get your opinion as well on how you feel, but for me, I was expecting the journey achievements to have kind of more oomph behind them, but at least in our group, after like tier 4, we have very little incentive to continue progressing them. Because to us, the like 3 cosmetics that you can unlock and the extra 20 or so bank space just doesn't seem worth like me going out of my way to do a couple hard diaries. So I kind of, I don't know what I was expecting, but I felt like I wanted more.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at the highest leveled one and the quest behind it, I think it's Sliskay's Endgame, right? Yep. As an example on that. And you very much do these once and you're done. And there's no further climbing progression beyond that. And maybe they didn't want that there, but I feel like these journey achievements that we got at the very beginning and through the start of the tiers were some of the things that really made Group Iron Man shine, aside from obviously being able to play with your friends. And obviously we can't have quest point requirements beyond what's in game right now, and there could be other things like boss achievements that could come out later with the combat achievements, I guess. Just like there could be an achievement to do extinction or whatever the next Grandmaster quest is going to be at the end of the desert storyline, as an example. So yeah, I agree there could be more. And I think that kind of horizontal progression is good to have, not only for Group Iron Man, but also also for the game as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So.
My only wonder when I think through this, because I've spoken to some teams where either one or multiple people kind of fell off. And you do run the risk if you make the group journey achievements, let's say, not overpowered, but like a pretty significant buff. There is the risk because of how some of those scale in groups that if someone stops playing, you just can't get them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that feels too bad when those people are already going to be down on their luck because someone is not playing, that they then can't get a certain. Like I know someone who is on a team where I think it's a 5-person team, but only 1 or 2 people play. And he's like, I don't know if I can trim anymore because I need to get Reaper Crew. So it's that type of stuff where if you add that into the journey achievements, do you then also lock them out of something else?
Right.
I don't know if that's a consideration.
Yeah. And I mean, you have to be a pretty crack group of PVMers to do Reaper Crew across the board for some of those bosses that are out there if you're a competitive group right now. I mean, Are you guys looking forward to that 5-man Yaka eventually?
Yeah.
I'm more amped than Lemon is. From day one when I saw that, I'm like, okay, this is going to be crazy. I've already done
3 Yaka, so
she'll be fine. The rest of us looking forward, 100% Sam with the group. I'm super excited. I will be begging our team to go as soon as we can, so we can start knocking out KC.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it, but
Fine. You don't need. I can cept you. Now that we know that I can cept you, it's all fine.
Yeah, I'm just I know I need to take my stuns off of my bar, and that's all I know about Yaka, but I'll get there.
Well, it sounds like there's quite the adventure to continue in 2025. So big thank you to the both of you for sharing what you've been up to within the Misthalin Milk Maids.
Of course, we're having a blast.
Yeah.
All right, let's run through some achievements. So starting off, we have Seabreeze24 with 120 Dungeoneering on December 18th, and Ripeth06 with 99 Necromancy on the 17th.
And we've got Godin with 120 Archaeology on the 16th, and Pero Picante with 99 wood cutting, also on the 16th.
Nicely done.
Right, and then we go with Jade Core with 120 Cooking on the 15th. Taffin Spy with 120 Necromancy on the 15th. And Dom the Mexican with 99 Necromancy on the 12th.
Rightio. Lemon, what do you got for pick of the week here?
Okay, so back on episode 999, Parnassius had recommended, was it a Terminator anime that had just come out?
Right, yeah, something like
that. And so once I had heard that, I said the next time I'm on, I need to recommend what I'm gonna call some proper anime. So this is a movie called Your Name. Came out in 2016. And it's I'm not like super big into anime. I do watch a couple of anime movies from time to time. This is the type of, for those of you who are familiar with the genre, you'll be familiar with the name Ghibli. Ghibli does a lot of like movies. They are generally considered to be the best of the best. They are, if you look at a top 10 list, like 8 of them are going to be Studio Ghibli films. Your Name is one of those other films that make it onto this list. So it's a stunningly gorgeous movie for one thing. And it's such a heartfelt, cry your eyes out kind of movie. It is about 2, I'm going to call them kids, teenagers, as is so often the case with movie protagonists. They are connected in some way. There's some body switching that's happening between the two of them. And, you have the girl who lives out in the boonies somewhere. You've got the boy who lives in Tokyo. they're swapping bodies, she's having a great time, all of this sort of stuff, and then it stops. And she doesn't know why. Sorry, he doesn't know why. We start with the perspective of the film from her perspective, and then it shifts to his perspective. He's trying to figure out why. And it's just such a wonderful, wonderful experience. I don't want to get into the details without, spoilers, all that sort of stuff. It is... There are not too many films that I would say just watch it. Just watch it. And this is one of them. The trailer I did should be in show notes.
It is.
That doesn't give away too much. And I would say watch the English version. Some people are going to scoff down at that because the Japanese version is always better.
Yeah, I know that's always a debate. Do you watch it with subtitles or do you watch the dub?
The dub is really good. The music as well for this movie is really spectacular. I have been listening to the soundtrack on repeat for months. And it's just overall, it's just such a wonderful experience, and I can't recommend it highly enough. So anyway, that's pick of the week.
All right, sounds good. Where do you find it? What platform is it on? Streaming or?
If you want to stream it, the only place that it's available, sort of quote unquote for free, is going to be on Crunchyroll, which is the big anime streaming service. You can get a 30-day free trial, so you can watch it that way. Otherwise, you're going to have to rent it from another streaming service somewhere. So I always watch all of my stuff through Apple TV. But you can also find it on Amazon and probably some other places.
Unless you use Google and conveniently type in your name and see what pops up.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could probably find it on the back of a truck somewhere if that's your deal.
Oh, I see. I see. I know exactly.
I would never condone any type of piracy, but if it exists,
I don't even know what that word means.
Yeah, that's.
Apparently, it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix Italian.
Oh, and Netflix Japan. Okay, fair enough.
And Netflix Japan, yeah, for sure. So yeah, if you type it in, I think at least the result I got when I was pulling it up for pre-show was the Italian Netflix.
Netflix Italian of all places.
Yeah. So there we are.
Alrighty, well, that pretty much brings us to the end of the episode here. Thanks, Lemon and Z, for joining us. Always interesting to talk and see the way other Group Iron Man groups are doing it. Anything else before we go? No?
Group Iron is fun.
It is. It really is. And, just it's so great having you on, and good to just, in effect, see where everybody's landed on this. And we'll have to do another checkup in the new year after a bit more time has passed and see how everything has gone. But
yeah, we'll check in after we have conquered Yaka.
Yeah, and got what you want from the gate, right?
Maybe not Lemon, but maybe someone will.
Someone else on the team will get it. I'm still trying, but somebody else is probably going to get it before I do.
All right. Tanis, any last words from you? Because this is kind of our last episode of the year, too, because everything else is pre-recorded until the first episodes of the new year.
It's been kind of a wild ride this year, right?
Yeah.
Like, a lot of starts and stops and a few curves. This has been quite the year, but just really enjoying Group Iron Man. It 100% breathed new life into the game for me. Yeah, and it put me on a no sugar, aka bonus XP diet, and it's okay. I'm not starving. Yeah.
You just find other organic sweets, right?
Yeah, but we already talked about dailies, so.
Yeah, right. And stars and all that going back. But yeah, I mean, we go back. We started the year off with an update drought and things that, we haven't heard from for a while. And with that, I bring you to our holiday schedule. Next week at the usually scheduled Friday publication day, we have the clip show that's been happening pretty much every year. That update has existed, so that'll come out on the 27th, as you probably expect. And then the week after that, we have a book review of The Gift of Gothics. Both Pernasius and Avernick read that book, so we did an episode on that. And think of that kind of like how we do Quest Weeks, but for a book instead. And then we'll be back the following week with just a general update of where we've been with everything Group Iron Man related, what we've been doing over the break and what have you. And then the week following from that, of course, will be the first Desert Quest in the series. So that's what the update schedule looks like. So hopefully everybody has a good holiday break. Merry Christmas to everybody out there, and look forward to seeing what we get up to, both on the main episode and on the Patreon extras in 2025. And if you want to be there for each and every one of them, you can subscribe on your favorite podcast listening service. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, and of course YouTube as well at youtube.com/RSBANB, or just go to update.show/subscribe and click your favorite one and go there. That's the best way to get the shows delivered automatically to you when they arrive. But that's it for this episode. Merry Christmas, everybody, and we'll see you for the next 2 pre-recorded episodes of RSBANB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.
Bye.